Oh man, this is tough. This is tough. It is official. Derrick Rose, the 2011 MVP, the youngest MVP in NBA history, has officially retired from the game of basketball. To be completely honest with you, I kind of had a sense that this was going to happen after the Memphis Grizzlies waived him a couple of days ago. I just wasn't really sure, but here we are now. And this this is tough, man. Like this is very very tough. D Rose, where do I even begin? Look, before I get into everything, what's good, guys? It's DemiM7. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I think you're gonna have a wonderful day today. I know it. So I think it's not really a stretch to say that Derrick Rose has to be like one of the most beloved players in the history of the NBA. I mean, seriously, this dude hasn't been like an all-star level player in years, but people have followed him so closely all this time, no matter what team he's been on, rooting for him. I mean, even during his best years or even some of his worst years, there were always D Rose fans everywhere cheering this guy on. I don't think anyone ever really hated this guy. But let me just go ahead and rewind the clock a little bit. When I was a kid, soccer was the only sport that I cared about. I loved soccer, still do, but I loved soccer. It was my favorite sport and my only sport that I cared about. And I remember going to school one day and all I heard from the other kids, this talk and all this hype, this excitement, was talking about this guy named Derrick Rose, this kid from Chicago who was drafted by the Chicago Bulls. You know, he was on the Bulls, and there was so much hype. I really didn't understand. I was like, okay, well, what's so special? What's so great about this guy? Just because he's from Chicago? Like, what is it about this dude? I had no idea, no context. So it just so happened that the Bulls were playing that same night. So I'll go on and turn on the game. And the rest is pretty much history. Look, I mean this with no exaggeration at all. Derrick Rose is the reason I fell in love with the game of basketball. The way this guy played, the way he moved, that twitch that he had, his speed, his quickness, his athleticism, his power, all of it was just... It was just mesmerizing to watch. You just watched this guy play, and when he jumped, when he was dunking or doing his crazy layups, this guy was levitating off the ground. Like this dude was floating. As I started to learn more about the Chicago Bulls and their history and how bad and mediocre they were before D Rose got there, it just became so clear at how much hope and how much excitement that he really brought to the city as a whole. And it was just infectious, man. Like this dude, he wasn't a big talker. He wasn't like super emotional either. He went on the court, he did his thing, he would destroy everybody, but he wouldn't really say much. He let his actions, his skills, his athleticism, he let all of that speak for itself. And it was just, again, it was like watching a work of art. I mean that genuinely. He ends up winning Rookie of the Year, but we just knew that there was more waiting for this guy. And in a few years, we obviously got it. The 2010-2011 season, which ends up being Derrick Rose's MVP season, becoming the youngest MVP in NBA history. Now, what really bothers me about today's day and age with how people look at stats and just make stats their entire thing when it comes to NBA arguments, who was really good, who wasn't, all that kind of stuff. Look, I love stats too, don't get me wrong, but stats don't always paint a perfect picture of what a player was. I mean, you have to look at it in context. You have to look at the era that was being played, the players that they were playing against. Like, there's a lot of different factors. It's not just about stats, although it does help a lot. Trust me. Stats don't always mean anything. And I say all that because when you look at D Rose's MVP numbers, his stats when he won MVP, you may compare them to guys like Luka or Giannis or players now and be like, oh, you know what, his numbers aren't that great. But that's when you also have to keep in mind that this dude is playing against a prime LeBron James, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook. He was playing against all these legends at their peak, or at least somewhere in their peak, and he was still dominating. The Bulls were dominating, and it was all because of Derrick Rose. And I also want to say this too. Look, you got Steph Curry, you've got guys like John Morant and Russell Westbrook, John Wall even. none of them were D Rose. As Rip Hamilton famously said on Matt Barnes and Jackson's podcast, none of them wanted smoke with D Rose. Like D Rose was so good. He was so dominant that guys would literally fake injuries so they could avoid playing him.
Man, this dude, like I'm telling you, I mean, there's a lot of great players in our game right now. When you're talking about the point guard's position, Russell Westbrook, you know, you talk about
Steph,
CP,
Kyrie.
Yep. Listen, none of them dudes wanted no smoke with Derrick Rose and Derrick Rose there.
Exactly.
I'm telling you right now, none of them dudes wanted no smoke with D Rose during that time.
Was a problem.
Trust and believe.
Your favorite point guards of today had no chance against Derrick Rose.
Yep.
No offense, but like, you know, Kai and Steph and them, no chance against that guy.
Because he was strong too.
Man, people was getting the D Rose flu. Cass was, you know, when he would come to town, Cass ain't even want to play.
Yep.
You know, not me, I'm just saying, but for real,
No,
it was,
for sure.
it was word around the league. Cass was like, oh, D Rose playing, I'm feeling some tendonitis.
Yeah.
Like Cass ain't want to see that dude.
I'm weak as hell.
The D Rose flu. I mean, that's just unreal to me. But that just kind of tells you how amazing this guy was and how awesome everyone in the league thought he was. But I also think the most important aspect of D Rose's story isn't, you know, his highs. It isn't the injuries, because again, we all know injuries completely derailed his career from what would have been a first ballot Hall of Fame career. I don't care what anyone says. He would have been first ballot Hall of Fame. And I also believe the Bulls would have won at least one championship if D Rose never got hurt. But the most important aspect to Rose's career, in my personal opinion, is that he never gave up. I mean, really think about this for a second. D Rose was at the highest of highs, you know, during his peak in the NBA. I mean, you know, he was the face of the league. Everyone loved him. He was so popular around the world. You know, I mean, he had his Adidas commercials and their shoes. Oh my God, those D Rose shoes were sick. But he was the most popular player. He was the most beloved. He was just everything to the NBA. And then he gets hurt. All of it kind of goes away. He keeps coming back. I mean, I can't imagine how hard that must have been, you know, for him, you know, after injury, he keeps trying to come back. He keeps playing the game that he loves, and he did it for so long. I mean, come on now, 15 seasons in the NBA is nothing to sneeze at. That is a long time. And the fact is, D Rose could have stopped playing a lot earlier. Frankly speaking, most players in his position probably would have, but he didn't. He kept persevering. He kept trying. He kept trying to be a big piece to the teams that he played for, like the Knicks, and then of course Minnesota, where he had his career high 50 points in what was one of the greatest moments of my life, you know, just watching basketball. Like I was saying earlier, we have seen players like Derrick Rose, you know, like with John Wall and Russell Westbrook and John Morant. Sure, they are like D Rose, but believe me when I say, like, just trust me, none of them are D Rose. Rose was just quicker. He was faster. I mean, dude, you just had to watch this guy to truly understand what I'm talking about. Just physically speaking, I've never seen anything like it. He has meant so much to me, you know, just watching basketball and how he just made me enamored with the game. And I can never thank him enough for that. Also, just another thing that I kind of forgot to bring up until now. Do you understand, like, this dude came up from one of the worst cities, one of the worst neighborhoods in the world, in Inglewood, and the fact that he was able to make it out of there and make such an amazing career out of it, I think just speaks volumes. Derrick Rose has and always will be my favorite player of all time. That will never change. D Rose, if you ever see this, thank you so much for everything that you have done for me and for your countless number of fans that you have for the city of Chicago. You're just everything, man. Thank you so much. Whatever he ends up doing after this, I hope he's just happy and he's enjoying his life because he deserves it. Anyways, that's just all I have to say about it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Tell me your favorite D Rose memory, and I'd love to chop it up with you. And until next time, peace.